Sisters Samantha and Olivia had been very different since childhood. They were 5 years apart in age. Their mother raised them alone. The girls were born to different fathers, and with each of them, Megan did not get along. Samantha's father was the first love of Megan, who plunged headlong into a romance that overwhelmed her. Each meeting with her lover made her forget everything. The girl melted in his arms, dreaming a white bride's dress, when suddenly she learned that she was pregnant. On the wings of love, she flew to her lover to tell him the news. When he heard about his girlfriend's pregnancy, he did not show any special emotions, except for a faint smile. His trace was gone the next day, as if there had never been a passionate relationship in Megan's life. Her hopes of starting a family with her lover faded with each passing day, but her pregnancy became more noticeable with each passing month. Megan's parents supported their daughter. "Well, first we will help you," said the girl's father after a little shock. "And then you will have to raise the child on your own." Megan thanked her mother and father in tears. And at the appointed time, Samantha appeared, black-haired, with a nose like a button, screaming and demanding her mother's breast. When the girl turned 1, the young mother's parents said, "It's time for you to become independent. Think about it and get a job." Megan found nothing better than to become a waitress at the cafe near her home. The money wasn't much, but sometimes the customers gave good tips. Megan used them to buy her little girl nice clothes and sweets. The job suited the girl, so she did not try to change anything in her life. But life itself took a sharp turn. One day, she was waiting on a table with a group of men. "Hey, pretty girl, bring me another beer." Megan hurried to fill the order. She knew from experience that it was better not to argue with such customers and to serve them quickly. Otherwise, you could be in trouble. As she placed the beers on the table, she suddenly felt a strong male hand on her buttock. "What are you doing? Stop it!" Megan pulled the man away from her, trying not to draw attention to herself. "Come on, don't break it." The poorly shaved man, who smiled of alcohol, pulled the girl to him. "Come sit with us. We'll have some fun." "Leave me alone, I'm working." Megan tried to break free. She looked at the man's friends for protection, but they seemed to approve of the insolent bearded man behavior, laughing and cheering him on. Startled, Megan looked around the hall. There was no guard again. He was always absent at the right moment. She didn't notice how she found herself on the lap of the nasty guy, and his hand was already probing Megan's breasts, squeezing them painfully, as if with pincers. "Leave the girl alone," she heard an unfamiliar male voice say. Megan looked up. Standing in front of the table was a tall, blue-eyed blonde man. "Leave her alone or you'll regret it," the stranger repeated again. Feeling the perpetrator's clinging paws loosen their grip, Megan jumped up from the man's lap and hid behind her protector's back. The man slapped the bearded man across the face. "Run," he said, grabbing Megan's arm and dragging her towards the cafe exit. So fast, she didn't even have time to regain consciousness. Outside, he showed her into a red convertible and turned the key in the ignition. They sped off down the night road to an unknown destination. "Were you afraid?" the boy asked. Megan just nodded her head, trying to figure out what was going on. "Michael," he introduced himself, smiling so brightly that Megan couldn't take her eyes off his face. "Megan," she said quickly, and then added, "I'm getting fired." Suddenly, like a whirlwind, love swept back in her life. Michael courted her beautifully, picking her up at home every night, bringing her flowers. They walked barefoot on a desert sandy beach and then made love in the backseat of a car. Megan was overjoyed when Michael told her he loved her and placed a gold and diamond ring on her finger. She had never had such beautiful jewelry in her life. But one night, he didn't show up. Megan was worried because Michael could not show up. He always kept his promises. So tired of waiting, she sat down on the couch and flipping that TV remote. What she saw on the screen shocked Megan. There was a terrible accident on an interstate highway tonight, the newscaster announced. When she saw a familiar, red convertible, and people carrying a man covered in a white sheet on a stretcher, she sobbed bitterly. Michael was dead, and Megan's heart was already thriving with new life. She was expecting a baby, and she wanted to tell her favorite friend that very night. Raising two daughters wasn't easy for Megan. When her youngest daughter, Olivia, was young, she helped her parents. But when Samantha went to school, her father and mother died, leaving her daughter with a small house. Megan took a job at a roadside store next to a gas station. She sent Samantha to school in the morning, and after school, her daughter came to her mother's job to pick up her younger sister, for Megan had to take her half day. But no matter how hard the woman tried, there just wasn't enough money. "Mom, I want a dress like Samantha's," Olivia said surlily, looking at her sister. "When you grow up, Samantha's dress will be yours," Megan tried to reassure her. And so it was with everything. Sometimes her mother would alter Samantha's old clothes so that Olivia will have something to wear. At school, the girl wasn't teased for being a beggar and a red muffin, and the neighborhood kids didn't want to play with her. Megan saw it all, but there was nothing she could do. Out of desperation, the woman began to lie down on a shot glass, and the anger at the informed life shifted to Olivia. If her older sister received only Megan's harsh curses, Olivia was often beaten by her mother for any misdemeanor. Bad grades at school, a hole in her pantyhose, or even just because Megan was in bad mood. "Mommy, why don't you love me?" the girl asked in tears. "Why should I love you? You ruined my whole life," Megan replied in her drunken voice. "It's not my fault," Olivia said, smearing tears over her cheeks. "I have enough problems at school. Everyone teases me, and you're hurting me." "So you're saying you have a bad mom? That everyone else is bad, and you're the only princess here?" And Olivia raised another beating from her drunken mother. Samantha, who sometimes visited her mother and sister from college, paid no attention to Olivia's suffering. She had already become independent, sometimes even giving Megan some money to buy groceries, but her mother still spent it all on alcohol. "I'm going to grow up and leave home like Samantha," Olivia thought, counting the days until graduation. When that long-awaited day came, she silently, without telling her mother, packed a few things into a backpack. The girl had no money. After a moment's thought, she opened the dresser, and Megan carefully kept a gold and diamond ring in memory of Michael. In the hardest of times, she had hesitated to pawn or sell this memorable piece of jewelry. "That ring was a gift from my own father. If he were alive, things would be different," Olivia thought. Slipping the ring into her jeans pocket, she walked out of the house, slamming the door behind her. "I'm never coming back here again," the girl decided, severing the connection with her mother, who had made her life miserable. 5 years had passed. Samantha hadn't been home in a long time, hadn't seen her mother and sister. She was lucky to be married to a handsome programmer. She didn't want to introduce her husband to her alcoholic mother, so she kept putting off going home, knowing that Matthew would definitely want to go with her. "Well, if you don't want to go to your relatives, let's invite them to our house," her husband suggested. Darling, this is not the time, Samantha said. You have a lot of work to do, and I don't have time for guests either. Matthew agreed, working hard to provide for himself and his young wife. As time passed, the talk of meeting his wife's relatives stopped, and all will have been well, but for a phone call that woke Samantha up early in the morning. Hello, Samantha. Come right away. Your mother is dead, the neighbor said in a weird voice. She doesn't even have anyone to bury her. Where is Olivia? The sleepy girl asked, rubbing her eyes and crawling out from under the blanket. Who knows? The voice on the other end replied, and there was a short beep. Trying not to wake her husband, Samantha went into the kitchen. She brewed some coffee and stared truthfully out the window. There was nothing we could do. We had to go to the funeral. Are you awake, my love? She heard her husband's voice. Matthew put his arms around her and kissed her tenderly. Yes, I couldn't sleep. Something's wrong? Why are you so sad? He noticed that Samantha was worried about something. I have to go away for a few days. Back home. My mother died. Oh, I will go with you. Matthew made this decision without thinking, but Samantha managed to talk him out of it. You don't have to. I'll be fine. She kissed her husband, finished her coffee, packed her bag and put it in the trunk of her car. The girl left home with a heavy heart. She had a bad feeling. Only she couldn't imagine what will be waiting for her when she returned. There were only a few people at Megan's funeral. Samantha saw her mother off in a formal way. When she returned home, she didn't find Matthew at home. Strange. It's late and he's not here, the girl thought. Matthew usually came home from the office, had dinner, and went back to the computer if he had unfinished business. He never worked late at the office. Samantha dialed his phone number. One dial tone, another. Hello, came a woman's voice. Matthew can't come to the phone right now. He's in the shower. May I take a message for him? Samantha was taken aback. When she heard the young woman's voice, she imagined a girl of simple virtue with whom her husband was having fun. The floor seemed to shift beneath her feet. She hung up the phone. All night, Samantha didn't sleep. The clock on the wall showed an hour, 2, 3 in the morning, but her husband never showed up. In the morning, dozing on the living room couch, she was awakened by the sound of the door opening. Samantha, you're back so soon? Matthew was surprised. He obviously hadn't expected his wife to be home. I'm home. Where have you been? Samantha didn't immediately remember that her husband hadn't been home last night. I came home last night and you were gone. I slept at the office, Matthew blurted out. I thought, what I'm going to do at home if you're not here? The man tried to kiss and hug Samantha, but she frowned and turned away. You used to hate spending the night at the office, even for an hour or two. Has anything changed now? Why do you ask? Just being at home without you is so boring, so lonely. Tried to find a reason for his spouse's absence. And where you were? Did you have company? Like to brighten the loneliness and not to howl at the moon with longing? Samantha said ironically. Darling, I just came to wash up and change. Let's talk tonight. I missed you so much. He tried to kiss her again and Samantha smelled the scent of cheap female perfume. She had already calmed down. thinking that she was getting upset for nothing. But the smell that hid her sense of smell made her jealous again. Matthew showered and changed. As she handed him his tie, Samantha asked, "Shall I make something nice for dinner? We will sit together, have some wine." "Of course, darling," her husband replied, kissing her goodbye. "See you tonight." The woman watched as he got into his car and drove out of the gate. "Yes, there is something wrong with me. This is the first time my husband has spent a few days without me, and I'm already suspecting him of all sins," she thought, trying to shake off the weight of suspicion. Samantha had no serious plans for today. She still had a few days off, which she would use to relax, and in the meantime she would prepare food for a romantic dinner in anticipation of some pleasant hours alone with her husband. She didn't notice how quickly the day passed. Samantha covered the living room table with a red tablecloth, turned on some soft music, and took out candles. Through the music came the sound of the cell phone alerting her that Samantha had a text message. She opened it to read. "Want to watch your husband enjoy a young, firm body? Come over right away. Don't bother knocking on the door. It will be open." And then came the address of a hotel. Not believing her eyes, Samantha scanned the message again. There was no phone number for the sender. After a moment thought, the woman picked up her purse and slipped into her jeans and sneakers. She desperately tried to remember who she could have messed up so badly, who she could have offended to the point that this person was now sending her nasty, nasty things. As she raced through the streets of the city, she barely kept track of the road and almost missed the indignant signals of the drivers of other cars in her address. Finally, she pulled up in front of the hotel listed in the message. Samantha walked resolutely to the entrance. Now she will put all dubs to rest once and for all. And if any impertinent girl decided to chase or provocate her husband, she will throw her out by the hair. The woman stopped at the door number 13 and listened. It was quiet inside. She pushed the door open slightly. Somewhere in the back of the hotel room, a dim light was on and some sounds could be heard. Samantha tiptoed over to where someone was, trying not to make any noise. The image that appeared before her eyes horrified the woman. Her husband was lying on the white bed. He was completely naked. On top of him was the writhing figure of a girl with long blonde hair that flowed down her back to her waist. Matthew moaned and moaned with pleasure, and the girl stroking his chest turned her head slightly to look at Samantha, who had entered. Her husband's mistress smiled at her and never stopped pleasuring the man. "Olivia?" Samantha wanted to scream when she saw her own sister with her husband, but her voice traitorously cracked. "Olivia!" When she heard that they weren't alone, Matthew opened his eyes and shook his head as if he couldn't believe that his own wife was standing in front of him and the beautiful Olivia. "What are you doing here?" he asked, confused. "Matthew, how could you? You live with me, but you are sleeping with my sister." Samantha shouted indignantly. "You are such a bastard." What sister? Who is the sister?" the man asked, trying to cover his naked body with a sheet. "Olivia is my sister." "What? You want a young body?" His wife shouted at him. Samantha looked at Olivia and laughed out loud. Surprises! He puckered her thick, lipsticked lips in a triumphant smile. Get dressed, bitch! The woman told her, tossing some things she had picked up from the floor in her sister's direction. She reluctantly began to dress, showing that she had something to show even without clothes. And you thought you always had the best? Olivia smiled as she buttoned her bra. I don't understand you, you bastard. I don't understand anything. Matthew jumped up from the bed. He quickly buttoned his pants and shirt, then looked around the room for his tie. Most of all, he wanted to take his wife and leave, to let her scream and cry and slap him on the cheeks at home, but no here. Olivia is my sister. You never seen her, but I have her, or rather, I used to have her. We haven't spoken a long time. Why don't you tell me why you stopped talking to me? Why you didn't help me? Why you ignored me when my mother beat me? Because you always thought you were the best, the smartest. You had a rich husband, a house, a car, and you don't care how I live my life. Is that why you decided to take Matthew to bed? I wish I had. I hate you. I wanted you beautiful, peaceful, contented life to crumble into little grains of sand. I wanted you to suffer like I did. Olivia lit a cigarette and looked angrily into Samantha's eyes. What did I ever do to you? Her sister asked her. What? I spent my whole life wearing your rugs, and when our drunken mother took it out on me, you never lifted a finger to stand up for me. You always thought only of yourself, and I was bullied and teased all my childhood. I ran always from home to find you and get revenge. For the last 5 years, that's all I thought about. You're a monster, Olivia, Samantha said softly. But now I've used your husband. I just f***ed him. How about that? You're going to sleep with him after me, huh? Why? Wash him, comb his hair, change his clothes, and he'll be as good as new. That's what you and your mother did to me. As if nothing had happened, Olivia went to the mirror, corrected the message, and took her purse from the chair. Stay, and I have to go. She walked out of the hotel room in high heels. Samantha stood at the window and watched her younger sister, to whom she had never been close, walk down the sidewalk from the front door. And now she was about to lose someone truly close to her, her beloved husband. And it didn't matter who Matthew had betrayed her with. What mattered was that he had betrayed her so easily. Back at home, Samantha packed her bags. She didn't want to stay in the house with her cheating husband anymore. She decided to start over, to start where her journey into adulthood had begun. She returned to her hometown, where the house where she had spent her childhood was empty.